as St. Paul says, "Put on the bowels of mercy towards all men, and bear one with another. Put on ye the bowels of mercy, humility, modesty, patience, bearing with one another, and forgiving one another, if any have a complaint against another." Colossians 3:12 and 13. You wish others to bear with your defects and to pardon your faults. You should act in the same manner towards them. Whenever, then, you receive an insult from a person enraged against you, remember that a mild answer breaketh wrath. Proverbs 15:1. A certain monk once passed through a cornfield. The owner of the field ran out and spoke to him in very offensive and injurious language. The monk humbly replied, "Brother, you are right. I have done wrong. Pardon me." By this answer, the husbandman was so much appeased that he instantly became calm and even wished to follow the monk and to enter into religion. The proud make use of their humiliations they receive to increase their pride, but the humble and the meek turn the contempt and insults offered to them into an occasion of advancing in humility. He, says St. Bernard, is humble who converts humiliation into humility. A man of meekness, says St. Chrysostom, is useful to himself and to others. The meek are useful to themselves because, according to Father Alvarez, the time of humiliation and contempt is for them the time of merit. Hence Jesus Christ calls his disciples happy when they shall be reviled and persecuted. Blessed are ye when they shall revile you and persecute you. Matthew 5:11. Hence the saints have always desired to be despised as Jesus Christ had been despised. The meek are useful to others because, as the same St. Chrysostom says, there is nothing better calculated to draw others to God than to see a Christian meek and cheerful when he receives an injury or an insult. Nihil ita conciliat domino familiaris, ut quad ilium vedant mensuetudine jucundum. The reason is because virtue is known by being tried, and as gold is tried by fire, so the meekness of men is proved by humiliation. Gold and silver are tried in the fire, but acceptable men in the furnace of humiliation. Ecclesiastes 2:5. My spikenard, says the spouse in the Canticles, sent forth the odor thereof. 1:11. The spikenard is an odoriferous plant, but diffuses its odors only when it is torn and bruised. In this passage, the inspired writer gives us to understand that a man cannot be said to be meek unless he is known to send forth the odor of his meekness by bearing injuries and insults in peace and without anger. God wishes us to be meek even towards ourselves. When a person commits a fault, God certainly wishes him to humble himself, to be sorry for his sin, and to purpose never to fall into it again, but does not wish him to be indignant with himself, and give way to trouble and agitation of mind, for, while the soul is agitated, a man is incapable of doing good. My heart is troubled, my strength hath left me. Psalm 37:11. Thus, when we receive an insult, we must do violence to ourselves in order to restrain anger. Let us either answer with meekness, as recommended above, or let us remain silent, and thus, as St. Isidore says, we shall conquer. Quamvis quis eritet to dissimula quia tecando vinces. But if you answer through passion, you shall do harm to yourselves and others. It would be still worse to give an angry answer to a person who corrects you. Medicante irescitur, says St. Bernard, qui non irescitur sagitanti. Some are not angry, though they ought to be indignant with those who wound their souls by flattery, and are filled with indignation against the person who censures them in order to heal their irregularities. Against the man who abhors correction, the sentence of perdition has, according to the wise man, been pronounced. Because they have despised all my reproofs, the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. Proverbs 1:30. Fools regard as prosperity to be free from correction, or to despise the admonitions which they receive. But such prosperity is the cause of their ruin. When you meet with an occasion of anger, you must, in the first place, be on your guard not to allow anger to enter your heart. Be not quickly angry. Ecclesiastes 7:10. Some persons change color and get into a passion at every contradiction. When anger has got emission, God knows to what it shall lead them. Hence, it is necessary to foresee these occasions in our meditations and prayers, for unless we are prepared for them, it will be as difficult to restrain anger as to put a bridle on a horse while running away. Whenever we have the misfortune to permit anger to enter the soul, let us be careful not to allow it to remain. Jesus Christ tells all who remember that a brother is offended with him not to offer the gift which they bring to the altar without being first reconciled to their neighbor. Go first to be reconciled to thy brother, and then coming thou shalt offer thy gift. Matthew 5:24. And he who has received any offense should endeavor to root out of his heart not only all anger, but also every feeling of bitterness towards the persons who have offended him. Let all bitterness, says St. Paul, and anger and indignation be put away from you. Ephesians 4:31. As long as anger continues, follow the advice of Seneca. When you shall be angry, do nothing. Say nothing which may be dictated by anger. Like David, be silent and do not speak when you feel that you are disturbed. I was troubled, and I spoke not. Psalm 76:5. How many, when inflamed with anger, say and do what they afterwards, in their cooler moments, regret and excuse themselves by saying that they were in a passion? As long then as anger lasts, we must be silent, and abstain from doing or resolving to do anything. For what is done in the heat of passion will, according to the maxim of St. James, be unjust. The anger of man worketh not the justice of God. 1:20. It is also necessary to abstain altogether from consulting those who might foment our indignation. Blessed, says David, is the man who hath not walked in the counsel of the ungodly. Psalm 1:1. To him who is asked for advice, Ecclesiasticus says, if thou blow the spark, it shall burn as a fire, and if thou spit upon it, it shall be quenched. Ecclesiasticus 28:14. When a person is indignant at some injury which he has received, you may, by exhorting him to patience, extinguish the fire, but if you encourage revenge, you may enkindle a great flame. Let him, then, who feels himself in any way inflamed with anger, be on his guard against false friends who, by an imprudent word, may be the cause of his perdition. Let us follow the advice of the Apostle, be not overcome by evil, but overcome evil by good. And 12:21. Be not overcome by evil. Do not allow yourself to be conquered by sin. If through anger you seek revenge or utter blasphemies, you are overcome by sin. But you will say, I am naturally of a warm temper. By the grace of God, and by doing violence to yourself, you will be able to conquer your natural disposition. Do not consent to anger, and you shall subdue the warmth of your temper. But you say, I cannot bear with unjust treatment. In answer, I tell you, first, to remember that anger obscures reason, and prevents us from seeing things as they are. Fire hath fallen on them, and they shall not see the sun. Psalm 57:9. Secondly, if you return evil for evil, your enemy shall gain a victory over you. If, said David, I have rendered to them that repaid me evils, let me deservedly fall empty before my enemies. Psalm 7:5. If I render evil for evil, I shall be defeated by my enemies. Overcome evil by good. Render every foe good for evil. Do good, says Jesus Christ, to them that hate you. Matthew 5:44. This is the revenge of the saints, and is called by St. Paulinus heavenly revenge. It is by such a revenge that you shall gain the victory. And should any of these, of whom the prophet says, the venom of asps is under their lips, Psalm 139:4, ask how you can submit to such an injury, let your answer be, the chalice which my Father hath given me, shall I not drink it? John 18:11. And then, turning to God, you shall say, I opened not my mouth, because thou hast done it. Psalm 38:10. For it is certain that every cross which befalls you comes from the Lord. Good things and evil are from God. Ecclesiastes 11:14. Should anyone take away your property, recover it if you can. But if you cannot, say with Job, the Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Job 1:21. A certain philosopher who lost some of his goods in a storm said, if I have lost my goods, I will not lose my peace. And do you say, if I have lost my property, I will not lose my soul? In fine, when we meet with crosses, persecutions, and injuries, let us turn to God, who commands us to bear them with patience, and thus we shall always avoid anger. Remember the fear of God, and be not angry with thy neighbor. Ecclesiastes 28:8. Let us give a look at the will of God, which disposes things in this manner for our merit, and anger shall cease. Let us give a look at Jesus crucified, and we shall not have courage to complain. St. Eleazar, being asked by his spouse how he bore so many injuries without yielding to anger, answered, I turn to Jesus Christ, and thus I preserve my peace. Finally, let us give a glance at our sins, for which we have deserved far greater contempt and chastisement, and we shall calmly submit to all evils. St. Augustine says that, though we are sometimes innocent of the crime for which we are persecuted, we are nevertheless guilty of other sins, which merit greater punishment than that which we endure. Esto non habemus peccatum quod objicitur, habemus tamen quod digni in nobis flagellator, in Psalm Psalm 68.